do you have to have some sort of track record of something to demand a seat at the table? Like, can I just say, hey, I've spoken to a lot of players. You need to clue me in on this negotiation between ATP and Grand Slams.
That's a good point.
I don't think that's realistic.
And the other thing too that I think also gets missed that I just thought of, Gadenzi's only been in there, I believe, since either 2019 or 2020. This PTBA thing, I believe, started before he started. If I'm not mistaken, John, you may be able to correct me on that, but I think he came in right at COVID. And I think during that time, he came in with this one vision strategy. He has this plan. He wants time to implement it. Obviously, COVID did a lot to stifle that at the beginning. Prize money decreased drastically. The COVID testing and yada, yada, the whole world shut down. But like we're seeing out of the years afterwards, 2021, 2022, that now he has enough time, I'm assuming that from the ATP side, hey, we have this vision. We just need time to get things implemented. And from my perspective, objectively speaking, things have gotten better. Like the facilities, they're bettering the facilities every single year at these tournaments. Prize money is continuing to grow up. The PTPA will say it's not enough. Maybe they're right. I don't know. I'm only speaking from what I've seen since being on tour. Things have gotten better post-COVID, say 2021, around 2022. Pensions have grown. Like, so I'm looking at it objectively and I'm like, it seems like this one vision strategy's kind of got some good stuff in it. Like things are better. PTPA will argue that it's just not good enough. So I'm like, the guy just came in here in theory, like, let's see what his vision is before, like you say, you just come in here and say, hey, we're representing players because we've spoken with them and we need to be part of it. I think you're right. What organization is going to let somebody just come in and say, oh, you want to see, like, who are you? Well, like, why should we give you this?
Well, and the biggest answer to that would have been the greatest player in ATP history as part of this, which now he won't put his name on a lawsuit. So you've lost your biggest point of leverage, but yet you're demanding more. You know, so it doesn't make sense. And also, if I'm the ATP and the Slams, I'm going, okay, you're a players association. We get it. You're playing within the rules of independent contractors that we've made it a complete pain in the ass. Like, we understand that. Who specifically are you representing today? You have to be able to provide names in order to get a seat at the table. There's not a world of chaos. And then it's like, you know, chaos. And then, hey, let me cook you dinner and let's come in and have let's talk about it. You have to have some sort of track record, and you have to at least be able to, like, I asked a question, do you have a membership drive? Can you tell me who your members are? No, was the answer. And I was frustrated, and I run a stupid podcast. Sorry, Mike, your podcast is great. I'm the stupid part. You're great.
I mean, could you imagine the NFLPA if
you get laughed out of the room?
Yeah, if the 32 quarterbacks were like, nah, we're good. We're going to negotiate on our own.
Well,
like, it's
right. And what are the tournaments inferring from this too, right? I mean, Carlos goes before the mic and says, I don't know, social media. And then Coco says, I'm learning about this when you are. And no, I mean, clearly these are not people that are wired in or are necessarily down with the cause. And the truth is, producer Mike and I could play a first round match on center court at Wimbledon and 15,000 people will show up. Not because we're dazzling tennis players, but because
they might leave.
Wimbledon's pretty cool. Yeah.
They wouldn't have to be there long.
Spot them a few games.
But they bought their tickets 3 months ago.
Until the players are prepared not to play events,
correct.
I'm not sure there is a whole lot going on.
I said this 18 years ago.
I said the same thing when they first started. When they first started, they were trying to educate us on the PTPA. And I go, okay, this sounds great. And I think my question, I can't remember who I asked, but it was someone at the PTPA. It might have been Ahmad Nassar. Think about it. But I said, from my understanding, the ultimate leverage that we have is to not play.
Ding, ding.
Is like that's the leverage. And Ahmad was pretty adamant. No, there are other ways to go about it. We can do this without a boycott. And I'm like,
we can raise 105 million and then sue people.
Like, fair, maybe. I'm looking at it. Maybe I'm looking at it too simple. I'm just like, guys, like, if we don't play, that's our leverage. And I think it's going to be hard to get a bunch of players all on the same accord to say, hey, let's sit out. Even if you have a couple players at the top who say, we're going to sit out, you're going to have some other players at the top that says, I can win a Grand Slam if I play, because the top 2 or 3 guys in the world are going to boycott for a better cause. I may face a little bit of backlash, but I can also win a Grand Slam.
So to your point, Chris, and I'll be quick about this, I have a couple of different points I want to hit. We were going to let you go and then recap, but I figure we might as well just run it towards the finish line here now. You go with that, producer, Mike? Great. Okay. So I keep mentioning this boardroom in 2007. It was like surfaces. Everyone has their own complaints, right? Not enough. Rafa wants more tournaments on clay. Roger wants this. Fernando Gonzalez can't sit out Davis Cup. And so we all have our own issues inside. I'm concerned about revenue sharing and merchandising, and knowing that the fact that that's not mentioned in a 162-page lawsuit is a crime in itself, and maybe deserves separate litigation. But I digress. That obviously I'm being sarcastic. Don't sue me. But I point out all of these things to say, like, everyone has their own issue. We talk about, let's just get people in a room. And I pointed out on a big board 20 things that we all agreed were a problem, all knowing where this was going to lead, right? I said the only way, and it wasn't the 20 top players, it was, in my dumb estimation, the 20 most marketable player. Marat Safin was 70 in the world, that year or something, and he's obviously in the room. Peridot Shrishafan was in the room because he was, the biggest star in Asia at the time. So as you're trying to stack with people who had the most influence on the ATP tour, and basically you go, okay, well, Rafa, you're playing through history. Would you skip Roland Garros? No. I mean, Roger doesn't want to skip Wimbledon. He wouldn't dare miss his annual beating of me. And then, all the while knowing that it had to be the US Open, because that leaves the most amount of time to negotiate afterwards. But everyone agrees in theory on these macro things. And then once you get to it, not to mention they were both represented by the companies that own the rights to Roland Garros and Wimbledon. And therefore it causes company upheaval if they don't show up, right? And it's someone's job somewhere. So that, like, there are all these layers and waterfalls. So I like the idea of sitting around a room with a bottle of wine, but I also feel like there needs to be like actual structural organizational change over time. My biggest hope for this lawsuit, as much as, I agree with the macro issues of tennis and disagree with the way that this was delivered. I think it's an ugly look for tennis. Hopefully this creates a sense of urgency for the tours and the slams with the issues that players have with them that hasn't been there before. Even if it's non-tenable, even if, as JW says, there's a decent chance there's nothing illegal going on, even if it's not perfect for the players. I hope this creates a sense of urgency. The other parts that I couldn't wrap my head around were basically like arbitrarily deciding who gets into tournaments based on rankings.
But then it's not arbitrary.
Welcome to fucking sports.
Yeah, competitive industries are funny that way, aren't they?
I'd
like to play Wimbledon. Welcome
to the best part of every sport. Like, how do we arbitrarily decide who gets into the playoffs in the NBA? The people who have done better. Is Chris sitting here on this show today whining about playing a challenger in Mexico where he is right now? No, that's the beauty of sports.
No, it's the reality of what it is and where I am.
It's the best part about sports is the fact that you are what your ranking says you are. To complain about that in a lawsuit by saying like, no, we should let more people in based on feelings. No. This is sports. This is what it's supposed to be. This isn't politics where you sell a narrative to get votes. Like, you're either good enough or you're not. It drives me crazy. ATP, you got to fix the schedule.